guys, opening day, it's tomorrow, it's finally here. It's taken forever, but all the fantasy drafts should be done by now. So this is a little quick video just to give you 5 players that are either on the DL or are going to be demoted that you should hold on to this fantasy season. This video is pretty much for anyone that's in a dynasty league. I wouldn't be paying attention to this video if you're not in a really deep league either, because these 5 guys aren't David Price, they aren't Drew Pomeranz, they aren't Andre Ethier, so they're not going to be anyone that's worth a lot of high value, but they're going to be guys that can give you a little bit of production as the season goes forward. First one is Byung-Ho Park. He's 30 years old. What kind of value can you get out of a 30-year-old that has only had a really good spring and a pretty mediocre 2016 season? I will tell you right now. The thing that you can get from Ho Park is if you wait long enough, he's probably going to give you some decent numbers. He had a pretty good spring this year. He batted for a 353 average. He hit 6 home runs and he hit 13 RBIs. Yeah, so what? A lot of guys do that and they get demoted. The thing with Ho Park is he's probably going to only fit into a DH spot, and the Twins continue to make problems there. They've put Robbie Grossman at the DH. He's going to give them some numbers, but if his home runs start to decline, I think they'll consider other options, and that's where Ho Park may get another call-up. His biggest concern is strikeouts. It's always been strikeouts. He struck out 32.8% last season. That's way too high, and for any fantasy owner, that probably scares you a little bit, but he's looked a lot more locked in at the plate this year. He's connected for a barrel of 18.7%. That was third in the majors last season, above Oakland's Chris Davis. So there's a little bit of value here. He's probably not going to go anywhere in your drafts. You can pick him up on the waivers. But if you wait until the end of April, or if you own him now for whatever reason, I'd hold on to him. Number 2 on the list, guy that I love, a guy that I always talk about, guy that I have such high hopes for, and I really hope that it works out because I keep telling everyone to draft him. But that's Jorge Soler. He's on the DL this season to start April with an oblique strain, I believe. Are your concerns? The Royals outfield is stacked already. It's got Alex Gordon is out there. Lorenzo Cain is out there. They've both had pretty okay springs. So where does Soler fit in? I think once he does come back, which probably will be around May, he's going to be the power hitter that the Royals really need. They need him to perform well because they traded Wade Davis for some power, and so far his spring has been completely disappointing, but he did have a 31.1% hard hit rate last season, which gives a little bit of an indicator as to what kind of season he may have this year if he just gets the at-bats in. That's what it's all about, is him getting some experience, because Joe Madden didn't really use him that well because the Cubs didn't really need to use him that well. He does hardly strike out. He only struck out 66 times last year. He did have a limited amount of bats, I know that, but I think Soler is still a great late round value pick, and I own him in a few leagues and I plan to hold on to him. So he might be on the most dropped player list as April continues, but Soler is an outfielder that holds pretty good value if you want to hold on to him for that long. Number 3, David Dahl. I originally had Frankie Montas in this spot, because yesterday he didn't look like he was going to make the lineup for the A's, but they've just squeezed him into their rotation. So I had to go to a backup plan, and I put Dahl in at this spot. Obviously, he's the kind of player that has a lot of high risk, but it could have a lot of high reward. He's only 23 years old, but he has a back injury, and that scares everyone. It scares me. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't have any shares in Dahl, but the fact that he plays at Coors alone tells me that there's a lot of promise here if he can get the bat swinging again. Last season he had a 315, 359, 500 slash line. Those are really great numbers. He also hit for a BABIP of 404, which was way above the league average. And his strikeouts have gone at 5% since his time in the majors. That's the main concern with Dahl, especially playing in such a generous park like Coors. I do think though, if you're willing to take that little bit of a gamble and just draft Dahl or hold on to Dahl, he's either going to pay off big time for you, or you've got plan B, and that's going to be some trade bait. Because when he does return, which is looking to be around late April, his expectations couldn't be high. People are going to be looking for someone to provide them with some home runs, with some OBP, and that's where Dar will come in handy if you want to try and snag a third baseman or a shortstop or a player that you really need. Number 4 on this list, guys, is Jose Ozuna. Little bit of background, he's the 29th ranked prospect in the Pirates organization this year, but he's only owned in 0.2% of ESPN leagues. The reason being is because he's probably not going to see much playing time this season, but within the first week of April, he may get a little chance to play with the Pirates, only if Gregory Polanco's shoulder doesn't hold up. He's probably going to fit into an outfield role, although he can play first base. He hit 5 home runs in 16 games in March alone, which is a crazy number to think about. He doesn't walk a whole lot. Last season, he only had a 5.6% walk rate in AAA, but so far with the Pirates in March, he has been a whole lot better. The thing that is holding Ozuna back is his defense. He drops a lot of fly balls, a lot of routine fly balls, and it makes him look completely crap. The other thing is the Pirates do want to carry 5 pitchers into the season, so Ozuna doesn't really have a spot to fit into. The only reason I would pick up Ozuna is if you're in a super deep league with some crazy amount of players allowed on the bench, or if he does somehow see some playing time in the first week, he may show that, he has the power, if he hits a couple of home runs, to stay up in the big leagues. That's the only time that I would pick him up. So super deep league and super keeper league, that's when I'd pick up Ozuna. He's been killing it in spring though, so I would just think about it long and hard. He has a 291 average, 482 slug last year, and he's hitting righties really well. So 2 big things to think about, and Ozuna is definitely, I think, worthy of being ranked a lot higher than the 29th spot in the organization. Last but not least, Daniel Vogelbach. Biggest surprise of the spring by far. I didn't think that he wouldn't make the opening day roster with the Mariners, but somehow they left him off. We all thought he'd be playing at first base because he's looked really good. He's only 24 years old. It's obviously the craziest demotion of the new year pretty much, and he's just a great on-base guy. He had a 425 OBP last season with the Cubs before he came over to the Mariners organization. He does walk a lot too. He walked 97 times last year between the Cubs and the Mariners. That's a really promising sign for a young guy that we don't see very often. He is being compared to Kyle Schwarber. I don't really agree with it though, because I don't see him having those kind of power numbers, and he does walk a lot more than Schwarber probably will, but his approach at the plate is very similar. So that's probably a close comparison. I just don't see the power numbers there. Finally, Vogelbach hit 23 home runs last year. He may not give you great numbers in average all the time, but he's going to give you those OBP numbers, which are super valuable, as we all know. I do think, though, he's going to be well looked after in the Mariners organization, and he hit 250 average with men on base last year, so there's lots of room for improvement, but I think in this entire list, Vogelbach's the guy that you would really want to watch coming into this season. Leave me a comment on Twitter, guys, if you agree with this list. If you have any questions as well regarding your fantasy season, please feel free to send them my way. Give me a subscribe and leave me some comments. Thank you.